Welcome everybody to the VOLTHA TST meeting on 26th of November 2024. Before starting, let me remind that this meeting is recorded and will be published on the YouTube channel. So today, before starting, we have a few announcements. First, the old Slack workspace is closed and we now have new Slack channel workspace, and the link is on the TST meeting, so you can join to the new workspace using this link. The second is about a webinar we will have next week. So next week on the 3rd of December, there is a webinar of LF broadband. There are panels and presentations from the operators, from the vendors and community. And so to register the webinar and see the agenda, you can use this link on the TST meeting page. Please register to the meeting, to the webinar. So next week on December 3rd, there won't be any TST meeting because this webinar is on the same time with the TST. So we will have webinar instead of TST meeting. Saying that, again, Jan, let's start with you about your status this week.
Yeah, sure. Do you want me to share my screen or should I just go through the points I have on the slide?
I'm stopping to share my screen.
Okay. You should see my screen.
Yes.
Okay, so last week we were discussing milestone N132 and was asking for feedback to finish this. I got some comments for the general documentation from Serkan, so thank you for that. But there was no specific feedback in terms of the aggregation switch or that anything is not finished, so I basically consider this part finished. Milestone M14 is about the OLT models and the upgrades of those. So we managed to upgrade, install, and whatnot the Radisys OLT. So this one is now also included in the pipelines, and pipelines can be run on that. We are currently stumbling over some issues with the open OLT part of this OLT. I would like to get some support here from Radisys because you should still see my screen, but now like some debug output, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so there is like, this is basically an error message that we see when we are running the pipeline. So the OpenOLT agent running on it is somehow throwing some internal error, blah, 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 whatever at us, which makes the pipelines very unreliable at the moment. So if we manually restart the agent during the pipeline, some of the tests after the restart start succeeding again. But then again, at a later stage, this starts failing again, and then the pipeline continues failing. So we need somebody from Radisys to look at this, if this is a hardware issue, software issue, I don't know, but that would be needed to continue the pipeline work here. Then
Yeah, and I'll help you with that.
Okay, cool.
Just paste me the error, whatever you've got. I'll just get it checked.
I'll write you an email with some more details on this whole thing, and then we can probably try to iterate together over that.
Okay.
For the Atron OLT, we got access via Eric on the images. We installed the new OLT images, there's some minor problems there. Like, for example, the ONI version installed on the Atron OLTs is not able to load the driver for the networking card. So the management interface doesn't work when in ONI rescue mode. You can see that in some kernel errors while booting. We circumvented the workaround of the whole thing by using a USB stick to load the image. We installed the image itself. That seems to be fine. We are currently looking at the pipeline code to run pipelines on this OLT. There's a bunch of minor and major things that need to be addressed. One of the things is definitely related to a lot of the more proprietary parts, like the Helm charts and the Docker images. There seem to have been a lot of workarounds in the old infrastructure, like locally provided Helm charts that got manually patched and never actually made it into the code base. We're currently trying to patch that in the pipeline. So there's a bunch of patches that we already merged and a bunch of upcoming ones to fix this situation so that you can still use the proprietary code, but it's not being manually first downloaded and then patched and then repatched and whatnot on the disk, and should align a bit better with the rest of the pipeline code. So if we need additional support, I guess I'll just ping somebody from Atron here.
Yeah.
Okay. Then for the Zyxel part, I wrote a bunch more emails pinging people, and I got somebody from Zyxel to respond here. They are generally interested, but not sure if they can provide support. So they're having an internal discussion with their headquarters. That's at least what I was told in the email, to figure out if they can provide support for the OLT. I would love to somehow time frame this, because we need to decide at a certain point if we can move this forward or not. And especially for us, being the contractor here in the end, it's important to know if we can finish this milestone or if this will be a 6-month discussion with Zyxel figuring out if this is a thing or not. So my current proposal here would be to try to finish this discussion before the end of the year and figure out if we can move forward with Zyxel support and this OLT, or if we should rather migrate the ONUs attached to this OLT and the tests with this OLT to one of the OLTs that we now have upgraded, functional, and with vendor support. But obviously that's just a proposal. So what is the idea of the TST here?
Actually, my opinion is to wait like sales response first for at least 1-2 weeks. I prefer to have Zyxel as well, but of course if they give support, so let's wait their support and discuss later. That works for you.
Yeah, so I mean, this discussing later is fine for me in general, but there needs to be a certain timeline for this, right?
Yeah,
Because like we from BSDN, we cannot like have a discussion with them for 4 months now, leave this milestone dangling, and just delay all the work for that amount of time. So there needs
okay,
to be like a certain time frame here when we say, okay, so until this date, this is either working or it is considered out of scope.
sure. So the problem with the Zyxel you have now is to updating its software, isn't it?
So the problem with Zyxel in general is the OLT at the moment seems to be very unstable, so it's just restarting from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
And the software version is obviously very old. And last year when we were discussing that with them, they said they do not support
Yeah,
VOLTHA at all. So the question here is, do they want to support VOLTHA now? Can we get this OLT into a stable state as stated in the SOW for this part here? And can we then build pipelines on top of that?
Okay. Let's wait until the next meeting. It's at the 10th of December. Then we also will try to reach out to Excel and get information from them during this time frame. And then we can decide at the 10th of December at the TST meeting if we will continue carry on with the Zyxel or not.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay, then there is milestone M1.5, which is about the replacement parts and stuff like that. So I just wanted to quickly update everybody here. So this is the work that has been done so far. So the edge core OLT has been replaced by the Redisys one. The aggregation switch has been replaced by the Dell switch. The non-functional Zyxel ONU has been replaced with another ONU that was already in the rack. And then we have removed a lot of cables, fibers and console connections that were either broken or non-functional at least. We are currently testing all of those things, rebooting different pieces of the equipment to see if everything else is at least looking like it's working fine. There's one question here in regards to the management switch, which seems to be also relatively old, which is not necessarily bad, but when we tried to reconfigure it to use DHCP instead of a static IP address, it crashed and we had to restart it. Then it started working again, which is fine now. The question here is, do we want to replace this within this work package or do we leave it as is? I mean, it is working at the moment. So we can leave it as, but we can also, obviously, since we have this work package and we are at the moment, replacing stuff, we can try to replace it if there is a replacement, obviously.
I don't think we have a replacement for it.
So there is people from DT that we can ask if they have a switch. There's a bunch. I mean, it's just a 1 gigabit management switch, right? So it's nothing like crazy expensive or complicated. I can go and ask people if there is lab equipment, like we already got this Dell switch, for example, as lab equipment. I think I can ask other people from DT there if there is general equipment available. The question is, do we want to do that? Do we want to replace this thing? Or is it something that we just want to leave as it is at the moment because it's also fine?
I don't think we have preferences for this. It's just a switch. So if you feel it's better to replace it, then let's go forward and ask the DT person.
Okay, I'll see what I can do then. Then there is 2 additional milestones. I also just wanted to quickly touch the milestone 1.6 and milestone 2. Both of them have obviously been started at the beginning of the whole project. So we are currently writing down a bit more details in terms of this bill of material for the lab. So there is already a lot of documentation up in this netbox. This is something that we migrated to the Linux Foundation, so you should be able to reach that. So netbox.voltha.org is publicly reachable. You will need to log in, however, before you can access stuff. Currently, the admins of this are Eric, myself, and Roger. We can add more people here, obviously. I don't think we should make everything public because there is sensitive information in this, like IP addresses and stuff like that you do not necessarily want to share with everybody constantly. But in general, this contains all of the documentation for the rack, the cabling, what is what are the serial numbers, and so on. The other part is in the wiki, which everybody should have access to that right now, I hope. There is more and more diagrams coming up. As said, Serkan gave a bunch of good comments there. I hope I addressed most of them. we're adding more stuff while we're working on this work package. The last part here is milestone 2, which is more about the processes and the journal setup. So we're currently collecting all of the different playbooks and automation tools that we have used to set up the infrastructure, writing some more documentation, and are also hoping to finish this relatively soon.
Yeah, a question here. So in previous meeting, we discussed about this wiki documents in the wiki page, and how we can access to the links in that documents, like the links like mass, VOLTHA something, or the links that that are in the Berlin lab.
Yes, you mean those things, right? This
yes, PFSense that Berlin lab or mass that Berlin lab, etc. These things. I think there are some information that we need to see in that links also to decide whether it's okay or not. So we previously talk how can we, reach to this, have access to these links as TSD members. And I opened a test to the Eric, and seems that it is open to the wrong person. So you should give some access to us to log into the VPN of the Berlin lab and to access these links to check the documentation or the artifacts there. So is this correct? I mean, did I get it right or not?
So we discussed that quickly in the last TST meeting, and I think Abhilash said he wanted to reach out to you guys and talk about this licensing issue.
Okay.
Was there a discussion internally?
No, we didn't have it.
No, I didn't. No, I didn't yet. The VPN.
Okay, so I can reiterate here.
Yeah,
I can reiterate here quickly. So the thing is, I can definitely grant access to via the VPN to the lab, but that means that everybody that has VPN access has access to all of the proprietary pieces that are inside of the lab. So everybody having VPN access has access to all of the Atran images, the Docker containers, the Atran Helm charts, the Radisys images, the Radisys Helm charts, and then in the future, the Zyxel and whatnot stuff. That was one of the big issues that we had last year, where the ONF basically said the ONF is the one managing the lab, and therefore ONF admins have access, but the TST does not. I can change that. I can grant access to people, but I do not want to be the one breaking any kind of licensing or whatnot things here by giving access to proprietary software to people that should not have access to those things.
Okay, got it. Whose license you're talking about? Niche, do you have any, licenses or any agreements with LF about the artifacts and the Docker images or the firmware software you installed onto the Altran devices?
I think with the download process, Linux Foundation agreed to the EULAs that we have, so the general, and these are not open source. So the software that we have is not for general public use.
Okay.
I think so. Even earlier, the images were not kept anywhere in a public place. Instead, we had to ask the vendors like EdgeCore. Okay, EdgeCore will give an image, and also if it was a Radisys OLT, then anyone from Radisys point of contact would give an image. So the images definitely would not be shared in a common server or anywhere. I think so. that is what we will have to do as of now. Of course, the hardware and all will still be accessible, but the software, the packages, I think so shouldn't be in a server.
But we can't split that, right? Because the whole lab and the whole pipeline setup works basically by using publicly available credentials to all of those servers. And the only guarding instance is the VPN. So if you have VPN access, you have access to everything that is inside of the lab. Because that's how the pipelines work. They use like default ONL usernames and root passwords to access those ONUs or OLTs, sorry.
Okay, you are mentioning the ones which are running in the world, right? The images, the packages which are running in the world.
Everything inside of the lab. So, for example, the Atran pipeline. The Atran pipeline is running on the Atran OLT, and the Atran OLT credentials are documented in public code, right? So everybody having VPN access can now access the Atran OLT. All of the software packages on the Atran OLT are obviously then available because you're root user. You cannot read the source code, obviously, but you have access to the OLT. The image of the adapter, another piece of proprietary code here, is downloadable from a registry inside of the lab. If you have VPN access, you can download that image. The Helm chart, another piece of proprietary code, is on the needed worker. So if you have access to the lab, you can access that. And the same goes for Radisys and for Zyxel and for whatnot. I don't want to like make a big fuss out of that. It's more like if I'm the one granting credentials to people, I want to be sure that I'm not breaking any agreements with anybody here. And
Yeah.
last year with the ONF, the clear statement was no TST members cannot have access. Only ONF members can have access.
Regarding the passwords in public repositories, that should anyway not happen. I mean, passwords should be stored in password stores, which are, in Docker, there are some, and, every toolkit has password stores, and they should be there from my point of view and not direct in the code.
It's a different discussion. I agree the pipelines should be written in a completely different way, but that's a different discussion of how the pipeline code should be written and how they should be run in general.
Yes, but I mean, we are talking about the aspect of the password here, not the general pipeline code. I mean, if the pipeline code is somehow accessing a password, I'm only talking about this part currently.
Sure. I mean, you're welcome to rewrite that. I can tell you it will be quite a lot of work with the way how the pipelines are written to get those out. But please go ahead. I would totally appreciate that because I think it's a good idea to not have that stored there. But like we've been working on that for a while now, and it will be.
I mean, if this pipeline code exists in this way in public repository for years now, I wouldn't object to let it stay there for some months more. Yeah. But long term, I think that should be moved out, right? Because
Sure.
can you confirm that this was, in the code for quite a while and public accessible anyway?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the
Yeah.
whole pipeline code is written in a way where it basically plain text SSHs with a username and a password to an OLT and then run commands on the OLT.
Yeah.
You can obviously change
Yeah.
that with
Therefore,
previous and whatnot.
I'm not saying that is a stop in this current work that you are doing. I'm just saying, from practice point of view, it should be different.
Absolutely, absolutely. But it's a bit of a different discussion.
Yep.
Maybe coming back to the original ask from my here in regards to accessing the needed links and getting through all the documentation to understand all the pieces. So what I can offer and what I've offered before is I can definitely give you like a guided tour through the whole thing. We can click all of the links and look at the different things. I can maybe even explain some more details about certain of the links and you can ask questions. We can definitely do that. I mean, that doesn't require any additional privileges or any access, and can probably avoid this other discussion about like sharing codes with a general TST public member. I don't know what. That's something that I can easily do. The other part, granting VPN credentials, I can also do, but only if there is a clear go ahead from the TST side that that is perfectly fine and in alignment with all of the agreements that they are with the different vendors.
I have a
Hello?
question here, Mahir. So
Go ahead.
when the BISDN finishes their work, who will be responsible for the lab, the Linux Foundation or the VOLTHA TST?
Not decided yet.
Not decided yet. Okay.
Yeah. So in the next few meetings, I think boards will decide on that, how to proceed with
Uh-huh.
this lab maintenance. I'm not sure if, TST can do that because there are some, as we talk now, there are some limitations that is applied to us. We cannot access all of the hardware and all of the softwares on that hardware, etc. It's hard and to maintain this way. And also, to me, there needs to be some dedicated person, dedicated people to do this. TST members are not, dedicated persons to, always will be on the job to do this, But we will see. I'm not sure. Board will decide on that. But there are some restrictions on both sides. So if LF, will decide to take the responsibility of this lab, then they have some credentials also. They have some policies. They say that if we access to and manage a lab, then nobody can access. So no TST members, no any other company, nobody can access to these lab environments, only us, they say. And there won't be any specific closed software in this lab. So in this case, the Atran OLTs and the Atran agent adapters probably will not be accepted by Linux Foundation. And Redis on the other side, they need to open their software to serve to the pipelines on a public, the open area. And previously Redis has said that they can do that. But in Atran case, I don't think Atran will share their software images, etc., in a publicly open server. So there are caveats on both sides. So I don't know now who will take care of this lab after BISD. We will see.
Okay, I see.
So this problem is a problem that we will face after BISDN finished its job here. We will face this problem again, this access rights, who will maintain, who can access the lab, who cannot. So we will talk on that more.
But we have still this problem, right? Access right problem. So probably
Yes.
it will be nice to think some ways. I have two things in my mind. One is to, sign an NDA, at least for TST members or between TST members and the relevant parties, that are sensitive to expose their, intellectual properties. And the other way is to have an additional layer of authorization after, a VPN access, so that there are some people to have access rights to certain resources in the environment. So there are two possible ways to restrict or not to
third
violate
one-
anything.
The third one is, making a closed meeting with TST members and Yan or anyone in the BISDN, and
Yeah.
they can go through these documents, and as Yan said, they can show us the documents in these links, etc. It will be an unrecorded meeting and close to TST members also, so we can see the documents there and approve.
And that also doesn't have to be the final thing, right? This is just like something that we can easily do so that everybody can see all of the things there. And then we can still continue the discussion about this access and stuff. I just thought that this might be a quick solution to
Yes.
the biggest part of the problem here, and then we can discuss the rest while going.
Yes, because we need to involve Linux Foundation also into the discussion. Not only us, not only the TSD or BISDN should be in this discussion. It should be TSD members, vendors, boards, Linux Foundation. I don't think we can solve it ourselves. So let's plan a meeting after TSD members, reviewed and gave feedbacks about the current documentation in the wiki, and they need to go further to see the documents in the Berlin lab. Then we can arrange a meeting with Jan and his colleagues, and they can guide us through these other documents.
So maybe as a proposal here in terms of the timeline. So currently we are aiming to finish the milestones, including milestone 2. So all of the installation, all of the documentation, all of the setup of the lab, basically, until more or less the end of next week. And then we would send you, let's say, one large PDF with all of the information in it, plus some links where the needed software pieces for the automation can be found. You could then review that. So end of next week would be, let me see, like the 6th or something like that. And then we could plan a meeting to go through this documentation, click on all of the links, look on all of the different pieces in there, ask questions for the week from the 9th to the 13th, ideally. And then that would also then offer the opportunity to basically mark those things as done and close those milestones.
Okay, and so a good time would be the week of 8th to do this close meeting. Let's say 11th Wednesday. Can we do it on that time?
Yeah, I mean, that works for me. So
Okay,
we would
so
then send you the
okay,
It doesn't work for us, Mahir.
Okay, let's take this to offline. I'll start a email loop. Okay, putting Yan and the TSD members on this email, and we can discuss on that. I'll propose a few dates for that. Is it the whole week, Burak? For
No,
you? Or only
after 11, we will be free.
okay, after 11. Okay, got it.
We are talking about December, right?
Yes.
Yes. Okay.
Okay, I'll start an email loop for this, then decide on the date and the time.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So yeah, that would be basically everything from my side at the moment. Maybe to summarize the open action items here. So I'll send out an email to Redisys to go ahead with the debugging of the issue with the open OLT agent that we see there. I might be sending out something to Atron as well if we run into some issues here. And I'll try to follow up with Zyxel. I would obviously appreciate if more people would try to get their Zyxel contacts on board so that we can ideally have a decision here rather sooner than later. And apart from that, we'll be working on the documentation of the different processes. So basically the whole thing, how to build a lab, bill of material, and the updating of Netbox. And last but not least, I'll try to see if we can get a replacement for the management switch in the lab to hopefully improve the stability there a bit. That would be everything from my side. If there's any question, please just feel free to ask, obviously.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen again. Yeah, I have an item on the meeting agenda for Eric, but I don't see Eric on the call, so I'll access him later. So the next topic is about planning of the release 13. So at the end of the year, so we need to release the version 13 of the VOLTHA. And so there's a bunch of things needs to be done during the release. So it will be the first time we're going through this release process with Linux Foundation. So that will probably take the most of the work to be done for the release. But we need to clarify the responsibilities that they will take care of, they will take, and STST members we will do. So during the release, we need to edit the version files of all of the components, increase the bump up their versions and build them again, and see that the test pipelines and verification pipelines are running without error, and then apply the tag to the repositories. So I don't know if Linux Foundation will take care of all of these, or they will only take the responsibility of tagging the repos, etc. So this needs to be clarified with Eric. So given that Eric is not on the call today, so we have to talk to Eric offline probably before the next meeting, because the next meeting will be on the 10th of December. So a lot of time there. And today also we need to talk about the code freeze date. Previous releases, we were having the code freezed at least 2 weeks before the release time. So given that the last week say that it is 27th of December, is the end of the year, so we can think to have the release at 27th. So then we need to go to code freeze like at the 13th of the December. Before that, we need to, we have the failing test jobs, BBSIM jobs that Abhilash, you were working on. So we need these to be turned to green, and we have waiting patch to be merged, and most importantly, the VGC pipelines, then VGC patches, and also a few other important patches we want to get in, the patches that we previously discussed on the previous meetings. So I'm looking to you, Abhilash, is 13th of the December is a good date, to take care of this patches and pipelines.
Yeah, most of the patches are already in review. Most of them have comments, and most of them have been addressed. And we have worked on one of the test jobs on the BBSIM, so that should go green today. And I see most of them are green, apart from a few. But I think so probably will not be able to, or we have to also come to a conclusion like whether we have to follow all the test suits, the PVSIM test suits to green, or only the selected ones which we are concerned about. Because there are quite a few test suits. Some are even running AT&T use case. So that might we can both sync up on this and probably pick a few test suits with the BBSIM and have them green always, at least for the release, this release, and then we can start merging. I think so. We are good with starting merge because most of them are green, apart from a few. But in case if something breaks, I think so we'll have to pick a few good test suits which are covering most of the cases.
Okay, so then 2-week time frame from now until the 13th is enough for merging waiting patches and checking the failed. I checked, I think yesterday on the Jenkins jobs, and there was only one important that was failing. It was the VOLTHA OpenONU Go adapter test. So I think it's good to have it also green before the release, I guess. So, but yeah, I also think that we can start to merge the patches.
Yeah.
So okay, 13th then. Any objection to the 13th of the December?
Before the 27th release date, I think so we'll have to check availability of whoever will be responsible for the release. Of course, we all will be along with Eric due to the Christmas and holiday vacation season. I think so we'll have to check the availability as well.
Yes, correct. So I'm putting the temporary 3rd of December here, but all ESD members needs to inform us about their availability on that time frame between 13th and 27th. And also we need to check this with Eric and LF team also. So I'm going to create a task for that to Eric and the release team, LF release team. Start process, then talk with Eric about this time. And meanwhile, TST members, please check with your, calendar if you have any problems with this date between the 13th and the 27th. If you will be online working or not, because these 2 weeks, we will work with Eric to release VOLTHA 13. Okay, then. So the 27th is release date. Good. Other than that, I don't have anything on the agenda. So we have 10 minutes left. Floor is open for anyone.
Hi, this is Amit. I think Sarkant is on the call. Sarkant, you had given some review comments on the proto changes for PPPoE, IA, and DHCP array. I replied to those. Could you just have a look at it once again? I'm audible?
Yes, you are Sarkant. You're on mute. Have you heard it?
No, yeah, I couldn't hear the question, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, so Sarkant, regarding the patch set for the proto changes for PPPoE, IA, and DHCP array offloading, I addressed your comments and I uploaded a new patch set. Could you have a relook at it?
Yes, of course. Are you referring to the proto changes or the
The proto changes.
proto changes? Okay.
Yeah.
Last week I returned some comments, but if you responded that, I don't know.
Yeah, I did respond to this
Okay.
after that. Yeah, so also I wanted to bring in one comment that you had was in the initial version, I had put in very specific statistics, right? And then I
Yes.
changed that to have a map wherein the implementation of the OLT could choose what statistics it wants to report back, right? So as I have written in the comment, right? So different OLTs are implementing a host of statistics and they are always useful, right? So although they might not be coming exactly as per the BBF standard, but whatever the OLT has to offer, it's always helpful, especially for during troubleshooting times, right? And that's why I didn't want to contain that with only those set of statistics which are there in the BBF standard. So that was the reasoning behind why I put in a map instead of the specific ones.
I see your point, but I still leaning towards having specific statistics because they are the very basic ones. If they're not supporting those kinds of statistics, then probably those OLTs aren't doesn't give any informative statistics. So
Or else, one more proposal that I could come up with is that we have the statistics which we had initially from the BBF standard, and along with that, we also give the map, right? So if some OLT has something more, they could send it via the map, and the ones that are already identified, yeah, they have their own meaning, and OLT should implement those. What do you think
I see.
of that?
If you find that better idea, then
Okay. Okay, then
no
I'll
objection.
work on the pet set again and have a more inclusive way
Okay,
there,
thank you.
more flexibility. Okay, thanks. That's all I wanted to bring up.
Thank you, Abhilash. And nice to see you again in the meeting.
Hey, Maya. Yeah.
Anything else from anyone? And I'm giving your 6 minutes back to you. And see you on 10th again. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.